Welcome to day 593 of our Web3 journey. I'm Ed Krasenstein here with my twin brother Brian. And remember, these videos are sponsored by NFT Tech. They're an investor in DeSo. So Brian, shockwaves have hit the crypto space over the last 24 hours as FTX just collapsed.
Yeah, what a mess. Yesterday was a chaotic mess within the crypto space. I'm surprised that Bitcoin has held up so well. And I say that it being at a low that it hasn't been at in a couple years now. It's at 17,600, maybe a little bit less than 2 years ago. It was a little bit lower than that. But anyway, it's probably some of the biggest news we've seen within the crypto space since 2018, arguably since the fall of Mt. Gox in 2014. And it all started when CZ, the CEO of Binance, made a tweet yesterday morning, early in the morning, and it read, "Due to recent revelations that have come to light, we have decided to liquidate any remaining FTT on our books." And FTT, for those who are not aware, it is a token that FTX has created. It's backed by FTX. But what happened is in 2019, so about 3 years ago, a little bit more than 3 years ago, Binance purchased a substantial amount of FTT, over $1 billion in FTT. Well, I mean, that's what it was worth at the time, today or yesterday. And they held it in order to have some influence into FTX and in order to just have an investment into FTX. And when CZ from Binance announced that they were liquidating it all, that caused a panic. The tweet calls FTT to drop from $25 yesterday morning to $16. But I think even more damaging to FTX is the bank run that tweet caused. It forced everybody to pretty much say, hey, is FTX illiquid? Should I be selling? Should I be selling or moving my crypto away from FTX, selling my FTT, whatever? And Bankman-Fried said that in the 72 hours prior or leading up to Tuesday morning, there had been over $6 billion of net withdrawals from FTX. So in the 3 days leading up to yesterday morning. So after yesterday morning, I can only imagine the withdrawal request really came in once Binance made that announcement. And reports indicate that FTX was insolvent and unable to fulfill over $1 billion in withdrawals. We don't know for sure why. We don't know if they were over leveraged. Maybe they were lending out crypto or FTT, or perhaps gambling irresponsibly with some of the funds. I don't want to go down that path because we don't have evidence of that, but it does make you wonder, like, what was going on? Were they over leveraging FTT? Were they lending against FTT, and when the FTT dropped, it really caused chaos? Or was it just a bank run and they just didn't have liquidity? But CZ then tweeted later in the morning and said that Binance had entered a non-binding agreement to acquire the non-US assets of FTX. This made FTT, the token, plunge even further, all the way to $3 or $4 or so. And obviously, I think most people are thinking, okay, if Binance acquires FTX, then the token's probably going to just go kaput. It's probably going to be worthless. And I think a lot of people felt that way and probably still do feel that way. There's some issues with regulators, whether regulators are going to allow Binance to buy FTX. It's a chaotic mess. This also is having a ripple effect on Solana. Solana is down big, and that's because Alameda, which is Bankman-Fried's investment firm tied to FTX, held over $1 billion in Solana. It was one of the earliest backers of Solana. Now that they're impacted by what's happening with FTX, which is probably a total loss, they're being forced to liquidate the Solana, which is pushing Solana down, causing people to sell Solana. So it has a lot of repercussions. There is contagion, obviously, in the crypto markets right now. But it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. And we had a scare ourselves we had about 40 Bitcoin in FTX US, which was Ledger X. We were doing some derivatives. And early yesterday morning, when I started to hear this news, I sold half. I didn't sell it. I moved half of that 20 Bitcoin to a paper wallet. Uh, and as the news got worse, I was like, okay, I'm going to move another bunch of Bitcoin over to that wallet. It took hours and hours and hours. We didn't hear anything from FTX. I really thought maybe we lost that bunch of Bitcoin. But around 6 p.m. yesterday, FTX US came through and they actually sent that Bitcoin to the wallet I asked for. FTX US claims that they're backed 1-to-1. They are away from FTX. They're not part of the deal that Binance will acquire them. So that's something to keep in mind. I think US exchanges have more regulatory requirements regarding reserves. So I would feel quite confident in Coinbase, in in Binance themselves, obviously, in Gemini. I think that a lot of these are trust, and as trust, they have to operate with much more regulatory approval, or they have to keep more reserves on their balance sheet.
Yeah, I mean, it's big news. You do wonder, like, how does Binance actually acquire a company that's illiquid without becoming illiquid themselves? But like you said, if they're regulated more so, maybe they have a solution for that. I just like to know what.
Well, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say they're more regulated. They don't operate in the US. The main headquarters is not in the US. But Binance is, I think, 10 times as large as FTX in terms of volume that they do. So what might be a illiquid situation with FTX is something that Binance could quickly gobble up, and that is not an illiquid situation. They have more than enough assets to back the assets. So I think that's how it is. People don't realize that Binance is 1,000% larger than FTX.
Well, that's a good point. Then I think that makes me feel a little more safe. But this does bring back some memories of the bank run in the 1930s. I remember those pretty fondly, Brian.
Yeah, right.
No, but I actually do remember a story that our grandfather would tell us about how he had money in his bank account, and his father, I think he had like $500,000 in 1930s. That was a lot of money in the bank as well. And there was all this talk, banks are going to go under. They can't pay out what people are asking to take out. And our grandfather actually went and took his money out of the bank, and it wasn't very much. He was like a teenager at the time, but his father did not, and his father lost like most of what he had. So you never know. And like stuff like this, could it become like a second bank run 90 years later in the crypto space? You never know. That's why regulation is in place.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk, even Bankman-Fried, who's obviously the founder of FTX, about regulations and about having reserve requirements. And I think it's definitely something that would help the crypto space. People think regulations that's harmful for crypto, but it really isn't. When people feel safe keeping some crypto on exchanges, I think that's a positive for the crypto space in general.
Yeah, like regulation prevents bad actors from taking the money that you think safe and gambling it, or taking that money and over leveraging it, which essentially is gambling. You're just gambling on assets. So I think we do need more regulation in this space. We don't want to be over regulated, but regulation can be good to some extent.
Well, yeah, and they say not your keys, not your coin. It's so true. I mean, if you have it on one of these exchanges, you don't actually own the coins, because something like this can happen, like with FTX. And I think a lot of people are kind of hesitant to keep it on like a paper wallet, or like a computer, like a Ledger
Cold
X,
wallet.
one of those thumb drives, because they're just afraid they might lose it or get stolen or whatever. So I mean, it's definitely concerns. I think having a well-regulated crypto exchange ecosystem would be a positive.
Definitely. So let's move on to DeSo. And as we talked about yesterday, DeSo hired their new COO, Salil Shah, that sent shockwaves in the DeSo world, but they were kind of overshadowed by the bigger shockwaves in the overall crypto space. It seems like DeSo always picks days where something else is about to happen, so much larger than the announcement they make. Of
Yeah,
course,
well, I saw a post. I don't know if it was Malsified or
it
Dylan.
was.
They were talking about should we announce it on election day? It might get overshadowed, and then all this happens, and election day is like nothing compared to this for the crypto space.
Yeah, I don't think election day really would have overshadowed the announcement, but obviously this FTX news has. So Salil Shah made a blog post yesterday introducing himself. He discussed his last few years working at Meta and Pinterest, and he said that he has now become increasingly interested in how the creator economy will evolve. And he has a ton of experience with that at Meta, where Facebook, they're constantly looking for how creators can monetize themselves and how creators can kind of like receive benefits for posting on the platform. So he's been working on that. Of course, Facebook, they don't really allow creators to monetize themselves very much, but DeSo does. He talked about the need for creators to have better ways of monetizing themselves and said that he thinks the blockchain is a solution that could transform this very creator economy. We've heard a lot about this from Natter in the past. He talks about that. He posed the question, what if all social engagement actions and associations among users, creators, and content, such as followership, were stored on the blockchain and thus portable across platforms? And I think that's a question I think can be posed a lot to a lot of these people in the Web2 world who don't realize that, so much is controlled by these big corporations. He then said this cross-platform blockchain layer would give creators a greater sense of ownership and enable creators to take their content and communities of fans with them across the internet, which is not possible today on, the Instagrams, Facebooks, Twitters, Pinterests of the world. Then he went on to say, that blockchain, that cross-platform blockchain is what DeSo has built. So DeSo can be that solution. And now he's working with DeSo to make that the solution. So it seems he sees a ton of benefit in the monetization of creators being able to, set up shop and monetize themselves and do well without the need for, ton of advertisers to pay them to advertise a shirt or, advertise a protein shake. So I'm glad to see Shah on board. I think he's just what DeSo needs. We'll have to wait and see though.
Yeah, and you're seeing all these alternates to Twitter spring up, and none of them have any sort of monetization features for creators. Whether it's some of these centralized platforms that are springing up. I think like there's like Tribal Social or something as well as of course a decentralized Mastodon and all of that. I think that ultimately a monetization ecosystem is what is needed to draw people and keep them around. But Natter also welcomed Shah aboard, and he said that he will be working with Shah as partners to grow DeSo moving forward. With Shah on board, Natter said he's excited to start investing heavily in the following, and he said building out the developer ecosystem, pursuing partnerships with household names, getting DeSo listed on more exchanges, probably not FTX, building awareness around DeSo, building DeSo into a world-class organization, and much more. So this is going to free up a lot of time for Natter. I think that it's going to allow him to keep focused on developing the back end, the core code of the blockchain. And I think Salil Shah can kind of take control of daily operations to some extent.
It's going to be interesting to see how much independence Shah has. Like how much can he do on his own without getting Natter's approval? Is Natter going to keep him on a close leash and say, whenever you want to get an advertiser or when you want to do this or that, you have to come to me and the rest of the core team first? Or is he going to kind of let him out there and have freedom to do what he wants?
Yeah, it will be interesting.
So Natter also made a post and asked, should comments be treated as first-class citizens like top-level posts on DeSo apps? And this comment he made came in response to a post by Deanne4IK, who said, we need trending comments feed like Overcloud offered. And Overcloud did offer this. Of course, Overcloud is no more on the DeSo blockchain. Natter also said at the protocol level, comments are just posts with a link to another post embedded in them. But maybe things like the new feed and the hot feeds on various apps should include them directly. It's a DJ replied, and he said that Core should create get comments by public key so that devs can build a feed around comments. I think this is something a lot of people would like to see. And you pointed out that so much content is actually hiding behind the contents. I mean, behind the comments. And I think all of us notice that there's some really good comments under threads, under posts that don't show up in the hot feed because they're just comments. So I do think it would be interesting, maybe even have a comment feed, like the top comments. What do you think?
Yeah, I really like that. I think that there's so much information out there that people are missing on DeSo, posted on DeSo, because nobody's they're getting access to the comments, but they have to, of course, go to the parent post first. And I mean, how many people are clicking on posts and reading all the comments? Not too many, I don't think.
Yeah, and if that post isn't in the hot feed, it's very likely that your comments are going to be seen because people aren't clicking on the post
Right.
in the hot feed to get to your comments. So, a lot can depend on that as well.
Yeah. So moving on to DeSocial World, of course, they feature a new creator every few days from one of 50 countries that they plan on doing this with. They hit their 11th creator that they're featuring in a video, and it is Rihan Ree from Romania in this latest clip, which I'm going to play right now.
Sunt din România și trăiesc în Anglia și îmi place DeSo și DeSocial World, unde dragostea se măsoară în diamante și diamantele se măsoară în DeSo Cryptocurrency. Te invit și pe tine să iei parte în noua revoluție din Web3, care este DeSo și DeSo.
She's a photographer and a painter, as you can see, who has created quite a bit of NFTs. You can check her NFTs out at NFTZ at rihanree.nftz.me. And remember, you can submit your video to DeSocial World and win $10 if you're selected for your country. Several countries, obviously, there's been 11, so there's 39 countries left that they're going to be doing this with. So definitely reach out to them, participate. It's great to see some of these people that you don't get to actually like meet on video or in images.
Yeah, like you get to have a face to a name now. So as many of you know, NFTZ is the only place where you can post and view live timed DeSo NFT auctions. Just go to nftz.me/auctions and you see all of the auctions ending soon. I'm just going to highlight some that are ending the next 24 hours. Art2Z has several of his DeSo Joker NFTs ending around 2:20 p.m. Eastern time. If you haven't seen these yet, they're really cool. They actually remind me of another series that, what were they, like the Telly something months and months ago, but they're really cool. Erie has several of her Erie avatar NFTs up for auction that end at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Also really, really unique. They're great to use as your avatar if you don't have a good avatar yet on DeSo. Photographer Ericos has more photography NFTs up for auction, ending at different times throughout the day. Definitely check those out. He's been auctioning off a lot of these. And Ackhill369 has some really cool NFTs ending today as well. So check those out.
Yeah, and I want to quickly get the top 10 bidders of NFTs on the DeSo blockchain according to NFTZ. These people bid on the most NFTs on DeSo. Ambitious Lynch, Dead Metal, HR Vat, Baron Rouge, Leo J, Shadow Crypto, Longo, Pboy17, 012345, and Regulian. And the top diamond, the creators over the last 24 hours, thanks to our friends at Altonbase, these people receive the most diamonds or tips on their posts and replies on DeSo in the last day. And they are as follows: Langit, Anya9, Clout Women Unite, Weebos, Nagak, Cantic, Jeng K, Natter, Tambaubin, and our new COO, Salil Shah.
Congratulations. And thanks again for watching. Be sure to check out the upcoming events that are going on today for DeSo. Thanks to Miss Katie Ann. And we'll talk to everybody.
Well, and I just want to point out, we have a tropical storm coming. It shouldn't knock our power out, but if it does, things could be delayed tomorrow.
Not this again.
I don't think that's happening.
Not again. All right, everybody have a great rest of your day.